Hi everyone, here's a quick demo to talk about stippling, hatching, and cross-hatching, which are techniques to create value scales using lines and dots instead of coloring something in and shading like you would with a pencil. And this allows us to create a range of apparent black, white, and gray using only the white of the paper and the black of ink or a dark color. Like you can do it with a pencil, but for this exercise you should be using your ink pen. It's worth noting that there's different sizes of these pens. The smaller the number means the smaller the tip of the pen, and they range from super tiny like the 005 and then 8 tends to be one of the largest ones. For this exercise, I'll use a 5 because if I use a super tiny one, the dots are going to be really small, so it's going to be more time consuming just to fill this in. But you could definitely, for example, experiment with using a smaller pen to get a lighter line as you're working on, for example, hatching. Just because it's going to be a little bit lighter, and that might give you more variation if that's what you're looking for. So I encourage you to experiment with the different types of pens, but if you're looking to just complete the exercise with one pen, I wouldn't pick the smallest number that you have because it will take more time. Stippling is using tiny little dots, and I'll show you some examples of what that looks like. Hatching is using lines, and cross-hatching is also using lines, but the lines don't go in the same direction. They go in multiple directions, and you can just do a crisscross pattern. You'll see a lot of that in examples of cross-hatching, but you can also just kind of overlay different lines in different directions, and that will also qualify as cross-hatching. For stippling, basically, you're going to have dense dots on one side, and then those dots are going to get much less dense as they move towards the lighter end of the scale. So we start by adding in some dots like that, and then basically we concentrate them. And yes, stippling takes time. You'll have to be patient for this exercise. It won't take that long, but you can't really rush through it because you need to make a certain amount of dots in order to fill this size in. And you should be working, this is a 1/2 inch by, I believe, around 2.5 inches to around 3 inches. That should be the size that you're working on here. That's going to allow you to get a range from light to dark, and I'm left-handed so you can't see over my hand. There you go. So basically, stippling is just going to be making tons of little dots and then allowing them to concentrate really heavily on the darker side and then distribute lighter on the lighter side. And you'll notice that when you step back from a stippled surface, it will look like it's fading and creating value. Hatching, once again, is using lines. And you should be kind of using lines going in the same direction for hatching, and they'll get denser as we get towards one side, and then those lines will distribute as we get lighter. It's a little harder to kind of stay neatly within this frame, so after you do the hatching you might want to go back in and kind of clean up that edge using a ruler. But hatching should look like this. And you can see if I squint, it's starting to look like it fades from dark to light. Now I'd want to kind of go in and refine that, work on, filling in the top area and possibly layering over here to make sure that this is really quite dark on this side. But hatching is a way for us to get that value scale, because once again, we only have black and white, so we have to find a way of blending the white of the paper with the black. And what that's called is optical mixture. When something is mixing with our eyes, basically that means that our eyes are creating grays here, even though there's only black and white. So optically it looks like a gray, but in reality it's black next to white. It's a fairly simple exercise. Basically, you should be practicing these so that you can use them and identify them in the future. And if you have any questions, please let me know.